Hey guys, and welcome to Untier Talk. It's a bit of a somber episode here today. We're recording this. We record these Sunday. Today's the day that Galbia stepped down. This definitely is not a big happy event for me. Anyway, before we actually talk about that. I'm joined by a common co-host, PU Council Member Hajad.
What's up, bros?
And we're also joined with a special guest who you definitely didn't know was there by the thumbnail or the title, Akir.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going sad. Because like I said, today, Galbia stepped down as the PU tier leader, as well as Anti and Ryza stepping down from the council, which is big. I mean, I wasn't happy when I first heard that this was going to be coming, which was obviously before it actually happened. That's pretty much every first generation PU player is gone now, as well as I think definitely the best, most active TL who has brought us through the most big changes. I lied actually. User Robert Alphonse is now the only first generation PU player, but other than him.
To be fair, I did play one game of PU back in Black White when we had Samurott and Superior. So
one game of
that.
PU, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
long time ago. But yeah, that's the last of the old generation, we can call it.
Yeah. And other than that, it happened. That it's kind of like a generational shift. I don't really know how much there's to say. I'm not happy to see Galbia, Anti, or Ryza go, but they were all definitely like waning interest and activity, and they did the right thing. You know, on the bright side, we have added PU Council member LST. He's joined the crew, so it's not all just people leaving. Plus, Gasquake VM'd me earlier today, so not everyone's dead.
Yeah, Gasquake, yeah.
Shout out to Gasquake, the person most people listen to this probably haven't heard of. Anyway, I don't know. Do you guys have anything else to say on this?
Not really. I mean, I think Galbia will be remembered mainly for the way he took PU out of the stage where we were in OM in Oras into competition with core metas. I mean, nobody's done that pretty much, and I feel like that's a good way to go out. There are shittier ways to go about it than like that.
For sure. Also, I should have apologized to everyone listening right now. I've got some seriously bad allergies. And I figured, well, while we record this, I'm just going to mute my mic and blow my nose if that's necessary. But I just realized after blowing my nose that I'm not recording just the Discord call. I'm recording audio in general. So that probably sounded really bad.
Well, that's what editing's for.
If I edit it out, then you can just ignore that. But my apologies. Okay, I think that's where we're at. I mean, yeah. It's a bit scary suddenly leading a tier on my own. It's not something I ever expected to do in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But PU's still moving on.
Yeah, we're still here.
Onwards and upwards.
And a lot of the second gen people are still around, and we're all, pillars of the community. So, yeah, we lost our captain, but we're still going strong.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess onto the more main topic, and the reason why we wanted to have you on, even before Galbia quit, is PUPL. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big deal in case you guys didn't realize. So like we got the slots hammered down, we got the managers hammered down. What do you guys think about the managers at the moment? To me, this was a very hard choice. Obviously, Akir was the one who had to make it as the host. How do you feel about experience and things like that? Because to me, this is definitely a big departure from PUPLs of the past with, well, no Galbia, no Ryza, no Anti, no Tone.
Yeah. I feel like the difference between this PUPL and like the other ones is that we have much sort of younger managers, managers that have, more to prove than maybe the other managers have in the past. Like other council members used to be like council members or, like PU tier leaders or something. Now it's mainly comprised of just really good, fun players, And I feel like it's a departure from the norm, but I don't think it will impact the ferocity of which people will compete with.
Mm-hmm.
I always try to add at least one person who hasn't been a manager in the PUPL before, because that way we get new blood, new ideas, new strategies. So last year that was Robert, which he's returning again with another questionable team name.
I would honestly prefer the fudge packing Passimians to Boku no Pika.
Yeah,
what does it even mean? Like,
it's an anime, right?
Pikachu team.
That's my Pikachu team.
My Pikachu team.
Isn't that an anime? Boku no something?
Yeah, it's Boku no Hero Academia, which is My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
Boku is mine. It.
Yeah.
I'm
that's the translation. I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Aside from team name, though, I think he brings a lot to PUPL as one of the larger personalities of the community.
Definitely.
That's definitely a fun thing about PUPL. It's not necessarily like a standard manager list. Like there's myself, the tier leader. There's Hijad, who definitely comes more from like the Brit score. We got Evagero this year, who's still a little more of an outside presence, a little more of an RU player, even though he's obviously been around PU for a while. Genzion is like the new person, and then Robert and Hond is like more of the personalities. I do like how PUPL gets a good mix, as opposed to just 8, like, oh, you know who they are. They're returning like they do every year, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing, but I am genuinely excited simply from the manager selection. Don't know how nerdy that makes me, but.
Well, to be fair, Han did incredibly well last year. They lost week 1 pretty heavily, and then he kept morale up. He rallied the troops, and he almost got into finals.
Mm-hmm.
Really only robbed by activity wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really don't want to see the same activity situation we had last year.
Yeah. But besides that, Robert Alphonse, I chose him originally as sort of a wild card pick because I wasn't really sure what he'd do. And he delivered on that front, and I'm hoping this year he delivers on that front again.
Yeah, for sure. I'm mostly excited by Genzion as a manager. I feel like, having somebody who has loads to prove as both a manager and a player, I think that will spur him on to, try and do something really, really out there, especially with the keeping activity up in the Discord. Some managers, they have issues, keeping activity up, keeping interest up. I feel like he won't struggle with that, and I feel like he might be like the dark horse of the tournament, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that was me last year, my first year managing. Since then, I've had a lot more experience between Smogon Exhibition, co-managing OMPL at the moment, 1v1 PL, playing several other PLs. But like last year, I hadn't really done like that many PLs or anything, and I found that the most challenging bit. So keeping morale high is always a big deal. So you mentioned Genzion is like a player who's also got a lot to prove, not just as a manager, but as a player. A new face to the community, but definitely a rising star in terms of tournaments and his play and stuff like that. And I totally agree that he's someone to look out for. Is there anyone else that you guys are looking at to see how they perform in a big way?
I don't know about you guys, but I feel like LSD has a huge chip on his shoulder. I feel like, him not getting drafted in Smogon Exhibition, I feel like that'll spur him on, to do really well in this tournament. I feel like he'll be one of the more expensive players as well.
He's absurdly versatile. He can build in every single tier and play very well in all of them. Like, if he goes for less than 10K, I think he's a steal.
Oh, there's no way he goes less than 10K. I don't think that's remotely going to happen. Yeah. I can count the people who actually play all 4 gens on one hand. It's like LST, TJ, General Annoyance, and I think that's it.
Yeah,
you obviously, but you're not playing.
Kushalos?
Yeah, I don't know how much he really he can certainly get back into them and pick them up, but I don't know how much.
I feel like
he necessarily.
I feel like
plays
Kushalos is one of those guys where you can just slap him in anywhere and he'll do well. It doesn't really matter.
For sure.
Yeah, but I generally consider someone to be a gen player if they can build in it too. Not saying that he can't, but in all 4, I don't know. Either way,
that's fair.
Yeah, I expected a lot of good things from him.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of people you can slap on anywhere, Sam I Am hasn't been someone who you can slap on every gen of PU. But he's coming into PUPL. I don't believe he played last year, but he did well
He did play last year.
He did?
Yeah, he did play last year. He didn't do too well last year. I think he went 0 and something.
Oh, right. He did. He didn't do very much last year. But since then, he's played in both UUPL and RUPL, which were PLs he didn't play in before, but ended up doing exceptionally well in, maybe 6-2 in UUPL or something like that, something similar in RU.
Yeah.
So, since his being kind of new, he's come up as a tour player who you can buy in random PLs and have him succeed, which definitely puts an interesting spin on him being a new PU player, looking to succeed in a team tour, because he has in others. Yeah. So I want to see if he can do it here too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with Sam, I feel like the big thing is that he's played PU before. He's he understands the community, and I feel like that's a huge advantage to him compared to any other outside tour player that wants to come in. He knows how things work. He knows how the systems work. He knows what's popular, what's not popular, and he knows how to stay up to date with the metagame. Mm-hmm. So I feel like he'll do much better than he did last year, for sure. But yeah.
The only downside I can really think from him is that his teams tend to not differentiate themselves.
Yeah, I was gonna say earlier today we just saw him play Teddy for quarterfinals of the PU Best of 3 tour, and we saw Teddy just absolutely blow him away at matchup with just the easiest counter team of his life in SMPU with Pom Pom plus Shinotic just absolutely eating his team alive. And that's definitely not something that should happen to you without you realizing, okay, I gotta switch it up and really look at this. Great set overall, I think. No, it was at least interesting. I don't know about great. It wasn't necessarily exceptional, but I think it was a very interesting set to really see Teddy come alive in the team building phase, but then Sam made some very hard plays throughout the course of the set that I found pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you could attribute the first loss definitely to matchup. Sam basically lost that game at preview after the first few turns. But, going into game 2, I feel like Teddy choked in the black-white game, with the Ordino versus the Monferno.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess you could call it a 50-50, but not really. Yeah. If he didn't make that play, we wouldn't even be talking about a potential Oras game, which Teddy did get, quite, unlucky in for the most part. But then he managed to come back with some luck of his own and, take a series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was one other person I definitely wanted to mention as a player to look out for, but I genuinely can't remember who they are now.
Tasker?
Everyone knows Tasker is good. Like, he's had the exhibition record and the last PUPL record. I don't think he's really like an up and coming. Oh, I remember. As much of a not really exceptional big couple of wins he's had, I do want to see what Pepe Duce has to offer, and I'm sure people pronounce that in many different ways, especially those who speak Italian. People have rightfully pointed out that he didn't necessarily like make a lot of big plays in his seasonal wins or anything like that. He was more of a player people kind of lost at, which is not at all unique to PU. So I'm very interested because I do still expect him to get drafted, and I'm very interested to see how he might put himself forward or mix things up in more of a team tour environment.
Yeah, I mean, I've made a career out of beating people at matchup. So, if you can win at matchup, that makes playing the game much, much easier. I mean, if he manages to prepare in the same manner that he managed to prepare for people in seasonal, I think he'll come out with a positive record personally. I think he's also got something to prove, but he'll definitely be drafted. And for sure, I'd want to see how he does in a team tour because, you can argue that there's less pressure on in a seasonal where the only person you really have to let down is yourself. So yeah, I'm interested in him for sure.
One thing that I found interesting about the player signups is the general scarcity of Gen 5 players. Like, there are more Gen 4 players who signed up than Gen 5.
Are there really?
Yeah, I've been keeping tabs on it.
Huh. That actually does surprise me because there was definitely the question of are there going to be enough Gen 4 players signing up and stuff like that.
Yeah, but the creation of that scarcity does put in an interesting mix into it. Like, to be honest, even though I love Gen 4, I'm more excited about Gen 5. Because, one, there's no Amfunga to just obliterate the tier. And two, there's a lot of less tested, less consistent people signing up who, haven't really shown themselves, but are signing up for Black-White and making Black-White their selling point. Like, Quite Quiet signed up for just Black-White and might get drafted just for that.
Well, he did play it back when it was like just DPU. He was playing back then. But really, I think Black-White has always been the gen where tour players did kind of get slapped in. I remember last year I put Finchinator in that generation. So I'm looking at PUPL week 4 of PUPL 3, and the people playing Black-White are Fuga 49, another tour player kind of going in. Ryza, interestingly enough, he can definitely play NHN, but I guess Holland had him playing Black-White. Finch, like I said, Hajad, and then Rhodey was the person playing on the Passimian, so another tour player with some Black-White experience picking up a new gen of Black-White. So yeah, that's probably more where Black-White's going to be headed, especially since, like we said, first generation PU players mostly gone. Like Black-White, it's always been around. It's great to still have it, but it's not really something that PU mains have stuck with as much. Even though it is like its own unique, interesting meta.
I think it's neglected personally. I've been building a lot in it, and it's a good one. It's just that people tend to ignore it. So now we have a lot of players like Aaron Boyer can build in it, which is a huge boon to him. And then we got Black-White players like Drud signing up.
Oh, Drud, yeah.
Yeah, like this could be a really interesting slot that I'm really going to pay attention to in the upcoming weeks.
For sure. I'd say the most interesting thing about the black white in this PPL in specific is that you don't really get much generational building in a meta after a team tour. When you look at black white, all of the teams since the last PUPL are still sort of around, and those are the only teams that really got used up until this PUPL. There hasn't been too much building or meta analysis by anybody. So I feel like one of the nice things about the tier is just going to be seeing new teams, seeing how people go about their buildings, and seeing what's competitive, what isn't competitive, and just going from there. I feel like it's definitely underrated as a tier. I've been playing it myself. I think it's much better than people like to give it credit for. But there's just a lack of interest in the tier overall, and I feel like that's the difference between something like that and something like SM at the moment, which is everybody's interested in it.
For sure. And I should say that even though it is in the best of 3 tour at the moment, we haven't exactly seen that many new developments in it. Like I had kind of hoped. I had hoped that people would put a little more into black white. It's still overall been worthy to include. That's not a problem. But there's been a lot of your teams, Hajad teams just running around, which does keep the quality of teams good, but doesn't really breathe life into the tour like PUPL definitely can. Anyway, we're definitely running a little on the long end right now. So, final thoughts like managers, players, format, anything else that you wanted to get out about PUPL, share it now.
I think this PUPL is going to be good. That's all I got. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean.
As for me, I've noticed that a lot of the older faces haven't signed up yet, like Funga, Tsunami, so on and so forth, Galvia, Anti, like all of them. So I feel like if there's a year for a lot of the PU players who haven't gotten the chance to prove themselves yet, this might be their year.
I agree. For my part, I'm very interested to be splitting between managing this and managing for other metagames Premier League at the same time. Definitely looking forward to that. And also, if you guys want to go support the Treasure Town Talonflames, best team for sure. Co-manager Leru, come on, it's a great duo right there. Anyway, thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Untier Talk. Boy, by the time this goes up on Tuesday, I think there probably will be more PU news, especially just with PUs changing, with tier changes. So we won't be hitting that till next week. Plus potential E3 Pokemon reveals. Might need to talk about that there, new gen or new Let's Go or whatever. So definitely looking forward to that. We'll talk for you guys next time.